911, what's your emergency? My wife and son, they're not talking. I'm calling from 3D Hamilton Road, Mapleshade. The 911 responder from the Mapleshade Police Department was not expecting such a call on a Thursday night. 23rd March 2017 was set to be just another uneventful day in the mundane township. With only 20,000 residents, not much went down here. The odd burglary, a juvenile case of vandalism, and of course, domestic abuse. Nothing new for the responders. Except this Thursday would turn out to be different. This day was to spark an investigation spanning years. After all, a double homicide inside House 3D shook New Jersey and sent ripples all through Andhra Pradesh. This is the story of a double murder that will leave you unsettled, confused, and shaken. This is the story of Sashikala and Anish Narra. Hi everyone, welcome to the Desi Crime podcast, a show where we dive into some of the craziest stories from around South Asia. I'm your host Aryaan.
And I'm Aishwarya.
And we're coming live to you from the gorgeous Apple store in Bombay. In front of us are hundreds of gorgeous souls, albeit a tad crazy and a whole lot desi. Fellow Desi Crime listeners that get to sit and watch us record this episode. Actually, the case I have for you today required me to stay awake with stimulants, coffee, and more to make sense of it. And a glass of wine to make peace with it. And I promise you guys, Aishwarya doesn't know what this case is, like with all of our cases.
I have no idea what this case is about. Aryaan just told me the name of the case this morning for the very first time, but I know nothing else.
That's because coverage is sparse. And my main resource for this script has been the Strangeland podcast hosted by Ben Adair and Tinky Ray. Their journalism is mighty impressive, and I'm restricted by time because it's almost midnight here and I can't keep the hardworking folks at Apple awake on a Friday night. If you want to dive deeper into this case, link to their podcast is in the bio. Mapleshade, New Jersey is the kind of town that looks safe on the surface. Tree-lined streets, strip malls glowing under buzzing neon lights, and a steady hum of traffic from nearby Route 38. It's a township of just 20,000, and parsed through it, you'll find a large immigrant community, mostly Indian. I would call it diverse, except it's no melting pot. It's segregated. New Jersey is home to a large techie community. Indians flock to the state in search for a better life, and many have made home here. It's a place where neighbors nod but don't pry. They don't have barbecues, but they say hi. Old brick apartment complexes sprawl in anonymity, and House 3D was in one such complex called Fox Meadow Apartments. Given how dilapidated and shoddy the old building was, residents loved calling it Fox Ghetto Apartments. It's almost 10. Councillor Vince McDonald is unwinding for bed. He's the chaplain for the Mapleshade Police Department, a role that requires him to provide emotional support during a crisis. Quote, it could be 3 in the morning. You get a phone call. Hey, we need you. We need to go knock on the door and tell this man that we've just found her husband deceased or wife deceased. And you're calling out to a house where the family has found someone overdosed and passed. End quote. Right as he is tucking himself into bed, he gets one such phone call. There's an emergency. We need you at apartment 3D, Hamilton Road, Mapleshade. Why was he called in such a hurry? Because just moments ago, a call was made to 911 by a man named Hanumant Narra, an Indian immigrant from Andhra Pradesh who, true to the stereotype, was an engineer at Comcast, a telecom company. Hanu, as locals call him, returned from work that night at 9 p.m. He slid the key into his small apartment, awaiting his 6-year-old son Anish to come running to him. Papa's home. Who doesn't love hearing that? Except this day, he did not. An eerie silence welcomed him. The house was hot. I mean, hot. The heat was on overtime, and the air was filled with a white powder. Through the cloudy corridor, he saw things scattered everywhere. And just a few steps into this case, he saw something that would change his life forever. The 911 dispatcher goes, 911, what's your emergency? My wife and son are not talking. I'm calling from 3D Hamilton Road, Mapleshade. I just come from office. In Mapleshade? Yes, Mapleshade. What do you mean they're not talking? Are they unconscious? I don't know. They're in the bedroom. Are they breathing? No, they're not breathing. I just came from the office. Are they bleeding? Yes, fully bleeding. Where are they bleeding from? I don't know. There's blood everywhere. Are you sure they're not moving at all? No, they're not moving. The lifeless body of 6-year-old Anish and Hanu's 38-year-old wife Sashikala lay there in a pool of blood. Half an hour later, when Councillor Vince walked into what is clearly a crime scene, he recalls, quote, "There's blood everywhere." Why? Why? Like this little boy and his mom? I don't cry a lot, but I cried that day. I never seen nothing like this with a child being killed. End quote. There was nothing the 911 operator, the police, or the medics could do. Mom and son had been dead for a while. Councillor Vince, although not an investigator himself, saw the gruesome injuries sustained by the victims. The 38-year-old suffered a severe throat injury. She lay in a pool of red. Evidence suggested there had been a struggle, indicating the victims had fought back against their attacker. The scene was deeply unsettling. Young Anish was found in his bed, a silent witness to what had transpired. The nature of his injuries indicated a violent attack. His eyes were open, leading investigators searching for answers. Even Councillor Vince McDonald could tell this was a murder. You see, the stuff thrown around in the 650 square foot one-bedroom apartment did seem like a robbery. But you guys are Desi Crime listeners. It was made to seem that way because nothing really was stolen. And more importantly, usually in case of robberies gone wrong, when a murder ends up being committed, it is never so brutal, never so menacing. Such injuries are remnants of a crime of passion. And the police eyed Hanu, the man who had just lost his family. More often than not, such a crime is committed by the husband. Councillor Vince, however, wasn't there to adjudicate, but to give solace to a distraught man. In talking to him, he and the police department soon found out that Hanu couldn't possibly have killed his kid. Hanu had an alibi. He was at work that day, 22 miles away from their home, and post-work had gone to the happy hour event with colleagues for which he had receipts. Even the autopsy ruled that Sashi had been killed at 3:30 p.m. Reminds you, 9 p.m. is when he reached. And Anish killed 4 hours later at 8 p.m., according to the autopsy report. Hanu wasn't home at this point, and there is CCTV footage and witness testimony substantiating that. It was a staged robbery. It was a murder. It was the worst crime Burlington County, where Mapleshade is, had seen in decades.
Aryaan, but that doesn't rule out the possibility of this being a murder from hire by the husband, right? And we've seen cases like that. And I don't know why this is so unique to Desi cases abroad, where when the husband is the perpetrator, it tends to be a murder for hire type situation.
Way to jump the gun and just
ruin
the whole script for me. But
apologies.
No.
That
is one of the theories the police will prod, but then you will find reasons for why that doesn't necessarily make sense.
Okay.
And yet, this crime was seemingly unsolvable. No witnesses to the murder, no leads for a suspect. Hanu was let go from police custody within 24 hours. Days turned into weeks, and a silent fog washed over the tight-knit immigrant community. Mapleshade had a saying, "Snitches get ditches." It's a place where neighbors nod but don't pry. They don't have a barbecue, and since 23rd March 2017, they don't even say hi. Hanu had moved his family from Vijayawada and Andhra to New Jersey in February of 2008. He, like the million other immigrants on an H-1B visa, came to chase the American dream, one that had just turned into a nightmare. Months turn into years now, and 6 go by. 6 years, no leads, no primary suspect, no public outcry. The city fell silent, and the memory of Anish and Sashi disappeared into the smog. Everyone moved on with their lives, except one man who saw it all happen. Who knows who did it? Who was sitting on his porch on 23rd March 2017, witnessing the murder of a child unfold. Half a decade had gone by when journalists Ben Adir and Tinku Ray decided to take on this case in 2023. In the years since, sparse developments had been made and bits of evidence scattered the board, but nothing concrete yet. Someone had to assimilate the clues to paint a picture, and the Burlington Police Department proved absolutely inept. So did the FBI, to whom the case was transferred. Nada. But Ben and Tinku knew that can't be it. You see, the first 48 hours of any criminal investigation are the most crucial hours. It's make it or break it. The Mapleshade Police Department appeared to struggle within the situation, and there were several areas where their response seemed inadequate. It's not like they didn't have a 911 call that was rife with evidence. They just chose to ignore it. So let's start there. The innocuous 911 call of a distraught father of a loving husband. The call was made at 9 p.m. And apart from Hanu and the 911 operator, there were more people on this call. 3 more people to be precise. And one of them was the potential murderer. We found the full audio tape, and you will play it all for yourself. Ash, put on your detective hat and your earphones.
Detective headphones.
And so should all of you. and try to decipher, I'll say play, try to decipher what's going on, okay? What are some things that stand out to you? Can you hear someone else? So just have the video ready, and I'll give you the cue. Pull up the video.
Yes.
Just think it in your head. What are some things that are standing out to you about this call? It's 3 minutes, 30 seconds. All right?
All right.
Good to go?
Yep.
Play the audio now.
Came from the office now.
911, where's your emergency?
My wife and son are not talking. I'm calling Maple Shade. I just come from office. Yeah, Maple Shade. They're in the kitchen. They're in the bedroom. Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, God.
Well, you got to calm down for me. I need your first name.
Anu, H-A-N-U.
Okay. And what's wrong there?
Yeah, just came from office. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody killed them. Hey, talk to me. Is male or female?
Male is a female in the sun.
Okay.
There's blood everywhere.
Hold on one moment for me, okay?
I just came from office just now.
What do you laugh when you laugh?
Yeah.
In Maple Shade. Caller on the line states that their family, a male, another male, and a female, are in the home deceased.
Don't go back there.
Don't go back.
Okay, hello?
Caller on the line states that their family, a male, another male, and a female, are in the home deceased.
Don't go back there.
Don't go back.
Okay, hello?
Okay?
Yeah.
Did anybody do anything to them, or are they just not breathing?
They both are not breathing. I just came from office. There's blood everywhere. They both have blood everywhere.
Okay, what happened to them?
I have no idea.
Are they
I
bleeding?
just came from office. Her throat is clear. Yeah.
Are they bleeding?
Yeah, fully bleeding.
Where are they bleeding from?
I have no idea. They're not moving at all.
Okay, hold on 1 second for me. I'm on the line that says a male, two males and a female. There's blood. Okay, is there anybody there that has any weapons or anything like that?
I don't even want. I'm so scared. I don't want to look at there. I didn't even want to look there.
Okay, and they're not breathing at all? You don't. Hold on 1 second.
No.
Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
Come on, it's blood everywhere.
Okay.
There's no reason to hold it on. Where the freak is the cop?
I have officers on their way, okay? I also have an ambulance on their way.
Sure.
I'm just going to stay on the line with you. There's nobody there that did anything? Is there any weapons on there?
I just came back from office, and they both are in the bed.
They're in the bed?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on 1 second for me, okay?
Sure.
Who has the key to your home? Who lives in the city?
I just opened the door. So,
It's already open?
I don't know. Who lives here? I don't even know.
Any weapons? I'm not sure what's happened. He just got back to the
I don't have the energy to see them.
No, you don't need to go in.
Mama. Her phone. Everything is here. Mama. What?
Who else is in the house with you?
Right now, my neighbor came.
Your neighbor came?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, hold on 1 second for me, okay?
I need to call you the week ago. Can you give me your phone?
Hold on 1 second for me, okay? Don't hang up.
All right.
What do you think, Ash? What are some things that stood out to you? For those
Okay.
of you who didn't get to listen, we're going to break it down, so don't worry.
So obviously, because you've told me to look for things, my antenna are extra up, and I'm on the lookout. Firstly, there's a lot of people on this call that I can hear. I can hear a ton of people. First, I hear the male 911 responder, and I hear the husband, Hanu. Then I can hear clearly someone that has a non-Indian accent in the background on Hanu's side of the call.
Everybody heard that? Yeah.
And then there's a female 911 responder
Yeah.
that we somehow get connected to in the middle of all of this.
She's just a dispatcher.
Okay, noted. It's a little bit weird to me how many times he's saying he's just gotten back from the office.
Did that stand out to anybody? I just come home. I just come home.
it's a little odd.
Yeah.
And I can imagine there's a lot going on. Obviously, nobody knows how they'd react in a situation like that, but that's just a detail that stood out.
Yep.
Obviously, the detail about my neighbor was just here. Now I know that that other person is the neighbor who ended up coming in.
Yeah.
But yeah, some weird details going on. Also, you mentioned that the wife had a slit across her throat, but Hanu doesn't seem to know where she's bleeding from when the dispatchers ask him over and over again. But yeah, those are some weird details.
I'm not going to ask, I just want to raise of hands. Was there anything else apart from what Aishwarya said that stood out to anybody? Just raise your hand. Okay. So there was one more thing. Let's see if you guys, got it. Aishwarya, let's start with the man of the hour, Hanu himself. What stands out to me, just like all of you, is, quote, I just come from office. I just come from office. I just come from office. Not once did the man say my child has been attacked, but in the 3-minute call, he slipped in his alibi that he was at office more than 6 times. Bro, no one asked you for that. No one asked you where you were, but you seem to be fixated on your whereabouts. This stands out to the journalists and those familiar with the case, but again, the police discarded it.
I don't even know why it happened, whatever happened. Police are actively investigating, looking forward for the final investigation from police.
On the flip side, though, it is, like you said, almost impossible to gauge how one would respond if something like this to happen to their family. Nonetheless, it's a weird thing to emphasize again and again, unprompted. Then we move on to the other voice. And here's where the plot thickens. At the 30-second mark, we hear a shrill cry in the background going, no. Hanu had a thick South Indian accent, but there's a female American accent audible. That's whom he's referring to as, right now my neighbor came. That's a woman named Crystal White. She lives 5 doors down from them. According to her testimony, she was unloading groceries from a car when she saw Hanu shouting on the phone at someone. While they weren't friends, she deemed it appropriate to check in on him. Quote, are you okay? He said no. I said, what do you mean no? He's like, my son and my wife, they're not breathing. And I said, oh, are they sick? Did something happen? He never told me that they were dead. He just kept saying they could not breathe. End quote. That's Crystal. And that's when Crystal realizes that the aggrieved husband is not actually on call with 911 when he's outside, but someone else. She insists he dial 911. His response, I don't know how to. Now, firstly, everyone knows how to dial 911. Secondly, you've lived in America for 9 years by this point. Of course you know how to dial 911. And thirdly, he knows how to dial 911 because in 2015, he literally dialed 911 to report his car accident. Your child and wife are dead, and suddenly you forgot how to type 3 digits. Then, the two proceed to enter apartment 3D, and Crystal finds it very weird that Hanu inserts the key to unlock the door. Again, that means that he initially went in after returning from office, he saw the bodies inside, came out, locked the door behind him, and then called someone that wasn't 911. Maybe this was a panicky move. But why would you lock the door behind you when you've just discovered your wife and children dead inside? And it is Crystal who later tells the police of the hot temperature and the white powder. In my opinion, whoever murdered the son and mother increased temperature to fasten the rate of decomposition of the body, and the white powder coming from the vents, to the best of my guesses, was bleach so as to disintegrate any DNA evidence. All this could have been easily figured out had the Maple Shade police done a toxicology report, except they never performed that. And that's where things just begin to get weird. There's a moment in the audio clip where both Hanu and Crystal, and this is the third point, let me see if somebody got this, they can be heard saying, quote, don't go back there, please don't go back there. Both of them said that. Obviously, they're not saying it to each other, right? You said, if one is saying it, the other is either going, but if the other is also saying it, there's somebody else there. There's one more person that can be briefly made out. Someone who might be responsible for the murder of Sashi and Anish. Someone the cops are told about by Crystal, but they never follow up.
There's another weird detail that I'm now thinking of. You mentioned that the night of the crime, Hanu was out with some colleagues.
Yeah.
So if this was a random attack and there's a random burglar or a murderer in your home, they don't know what time Hanu's going to come back, right? To them, there is any point now that he could walk in.
Yeah,
but they've spent the time to increase the temperature in the home, to put bleach in the vents.
And it's not like it's 1 a.m. where,
it's not, where he's not going to come back anytime soon.
So clearly that also adds to the whole
It seems like a lot of
staged
planning,
effect.
right.
100%. Crystal, to the police and to investigators later on, says The person she saw, the person they were telling, don't go back there, was a tall, thin Indian lady. This lady paid no heed to Crystal and only talked to Hanu in Telugu, their native language. Crystal describes this anonymous lady as apathetic, bereft of emotion. She insisted she wanted to see the dead bodies, which is when the duo shouted, "Please don't go back." But this mysterious lady still did, and her reaction to two slit throats, quote, "Wow." Now, wow is quite the reaction the slit throat of a 6-year-old, which, as Crystal recounts, this anonymous lady leaned towards, stared at with a blank expression, and then walked away. Not a tear, not even a word of dismay, just wow. And then we have the final breadcrumb. TANA, T-A-N-A, the Telugu Association of North America. This is a powerful and influential non-profit that serves Telugu-speaking immigrants from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. It is deeply connected to the South Indian business and tech communities. It is an organization that looks out for immigrants, that participates in charity to uplift this community, that leads F-1B visa application, and that also seems to be covering up a murder. When you need to understand is that snitches get ditches mindset of the Telugu immigrant community. Yes, Anish and Sashi were themselves members of this community, but when they died, locals didn't seem to bat an eye because they chose not to. You know, it reminds me of Desi Shah's horrible dialogue from Race 3, "Our business is our business, none of your business." In this case, it was "Your business is your business, none of our business." But the thing is, TANA wasn't just not helping the police, they were actively obstructing it. It was more than the immigrant self-preserving mindset. Now this was getting political. Post the murder in 2017, TANA began wiping out its records of any mention of Hanu. And when the police approached for help in spreading awareness or giving out a financial reward for any leads, they said point blank no. TANA had a track record of bad behavior. Get this. Former TANA members and whistleblowers have alleged that its leadership has been involved in visa fraud, illegal employment operations, money laundering, and even connections to sex trafficking rings involving actresses from the Telugu film industry, aka Tollywood. One of the most significant accusations is that TANA exploits the H-1B visa program, which allows highly skilled foreign workers to work in the US. Some reports suggest that TANA members assist in falsifying credentials and job offers to secure H-1B visas, leading to potential human trafficking situations where immigrants become trapped in exploitative working conditions under the visa sponsors. Now, while authorities in the US are complacent, word has gotten around in India. And you know what happens when word gets around in India. In Andhra Pradesh, in Sashikala's home village, her dad and mother, Krishna Kumari, are broken souls. Regional Andhra media continue to report on this case all through the 6 years, unearthing key details of the couple's marriage. Suffices to say, it wasn't a happy one. Sashi, on multiple occasions, had confided in her mother, Krishna, how she was trapped in an abusive household. Quote, "My daughter said Hanu treated her like a servant, but she tried to ignore it. I advised Sashi to focus on taking care of herself and her job and not to worry about it. It should remain a private issue and should not be made public. She patiently waited, expecting that everything would calm down and that he would somehow change." End quote. And then came the accusation. Quote, "Our suspicion is that he did it by hiring someone, if not himself." End quote. This turbulent marriage that Sashi's mother described wasn't apparent to Maple Shade neighbors. Yes, the couple wasn't a particularly loving one, never seen outside holding hands or even smiling, but it doesn't seem like a broken household either, especially because their son, 6-year-old Ashish, was a star beyond his years. According to his first grade teacher, Kelly Canavan, quote, "Just being a teacher, I feel like everyone always says, oh, you can't have a favorite. You can't have a favorite. But deep down, every teacher has a favorite. Anish was my favorite. He was so bright. He loved math and science. He was always asking questions, always curious." End quote. Kelly points out that Anish shared a special relationship with his mom, but his dad seemed absent. He would rarely ever visit school, and at PTMs, when he was forced to be there, he was always haughty and unengaged. Quote, "He was such a good reader. He was ahead of his class. Every morning we started with our journal, and he would write about us. He would write about his mom. He would always write that he loved her. His favorite saying was, 'Love is all you need.'" I would always ask him why. "Why, Anish? Where did you get that from? What 7-year-old knows that?" And he would say, "My mom. I think it's a Beatles song. My mom would play it on the radio, so we all just leaned in on that too, and we had that somewhere." End quote. Love is all you need. And the more you learn about the Narra household, the more the absence of love is palpable. Kelly and others recount how Sashi never left her home. And on the off chance she did, she always sat on the back seat while Hanu drove the car. And remember when I said Hanu rarely ever visited school? The only other time, and this detail boggles my mind, the only other time Kelly remembers him visiting their school, Our Lady of Perpetual Help, a private Catholic school, it was on 23rd March 2017, the day Anish was murdered. It was 12 p.m. when Hanu entered the school. According to Kelly, quote, he showed up at school on the day Anish was killed. I was confused. I just didn't understand. Our principal had come down and was like, Anish's dad just dropped off his water bottle. And I was like, what? Why? Why did he do that? Anish didn't need his water bottle. We have water fountains. It wasn't necessary. It was strange. He had never done that before. End quote. In fact, Maple Shade Township was voted by the New Jersey government as having the best tasting water. That's some trivia for you, but it just goes to show that something weird was brewing. So we have a turbulent household, a neighbor that had reported inconsistencies, and a mysterious lady on the scene of crime that Hanu failed to mention. Who was she? Does she know what actually happened that day? Police were never able to find out who this was, but the Indian media, for all its pitfalls, did. A letter addressed to Sashi's brother, written by Sashi herself, was made public, and it had a name in it. It was addressed to Venu. Venu is the brother. Venu, I'm feeling so bad and sad. I'm not able to digest that Hanu is loving another lady. Deepa Ajit from Cognizant Technology Solutions. I'm crying like anything daily. Sometimes I feel like dying, but after seeing Ashish's face, I'm surviving. Daily, I'm talking with mom without showing my pain, but every day, I'm crying like anything because of the incident above. My heart was broken. He loved me and married me. How can he do this? After showing all the proofs of their chats, he says he did not make any mistake. No guilt at all. Having a wife and a 5-year-old child, he's bringing another woman, and does that not make him ashamed? I'm not sure what to do. For everything, I believed him, and I never expected he would cheat on me like this. His parents, sister, and brother-in-law, and this is important, guys, all of them are so cunning and dangerous. They will not share anything, especially my mother-in-law. Very, very dangerous. She is the one who will prepare the plans. She uses us to make them rich. She will also spoil Hanu's thoughts by telling him bad opinions about our parents, you and me. Call me when you're free. I'm so upset. I'm not telling mom because it will hurt her. End quote. Deepa Ajit, a thin, tall, brown-skinned Indian woman who spoke Telugu, the same one that Crystal saw that fateful Thursday night. She was there at the crime scene, looking at Sashi's slit throat, not an emotion on her face. And what about Sashi saying in a letter that Hanu is trying to make money off of her? Now, this gives us a new insight. Not only had Hanu's family taken 1 crore rupees in dowry from Sashi, Hanu also had full control over her 6-figure salary. All the money she made from her remote job, he kept. But what's worse is that just a few months before Sashi's murder, Hanu took out a $1 million life insurance on her name. In the insurance policy, he was the sole beneficiary, and only his contact details were added, not even Sashi's contact details. Just 8 days after Sashi's bloodied body was found, Hanu applied for the claim. In fact, the day after the murder, Hanu was seen working out in the same gym where he used to meet Deepa Ajit every day. The insurance company blocked the $1 million payment, citing the Slayer rule, which prevents a person from profiting from the death of someone they murdered. Not that Hanu was the prime suspect, mind you, but the police hadn't officially ruled him out. Hanu's battle with the Sasikala's family over her estate continued for years as they stand by the fact that he got their daughter killed. But all this journalistic vigor shown by the Indian media and American investigative journalists had no bearing on the actual investigation. The police still acted clueless, literally. But remember when I said that on the night of 23rd March, there was one person who saw it all unfold. One person that might hold the key to what really happened that night. That person was tracked down by the folks at the Strangeland podcast. His name is Craig. Craig was their neighbor, a wise young man who was a bit of a street hustler. He busied himself with odd jobs. Nothing criminal, but nothing too legal either. In 2017, Craig was unemployed and spent most of his days sitting on his porch, smoking a cigarette, and people watching. And boy, did Craig watch some people that gloomy Thursday evening. According to him, he tried telling the cops what he saw, but they dismissed him, instead treating him as a potential suspect. Worrying for his own life and that of his mother, he decided he had had enough. The trauma of what he saw became too much to bear. He didn't speak ever since, not for 6 years. But when the Strangeland team found him, he opened up like a deck of cards. His heart had kept that dark secret for too long. On the night of March 23rd, according to Craig, Sashi and Anish were dropped home by a short Indian man who wasn't Hanu. Craig often saw this man drop the mother and son home, but this was the first time this man followed the woman and the son into the house. A few minutes later, he came back out and drove off. This happened between 6 to 8:30 p.m. You remember the autopsy reports that stated Sashi's time of death as 3:30 p.m.? Well, that was some kind of clerical or forensic error because Sashi is on record picking up Ashish from school at 4:30 p.m. How could she be dead an hour before that? So you're seeing how this is a botched up investigation from the get-go, which has spiraled into the rest of it, it's seeped into the rest of the investigation. The timeline of the police has been wrong from the beginning. Now, anyway, the short Indian man leaves, and a few hours later, Hanu arrives home. According to Craig, Hanu was inside for 15 minutes before he let out a cry. If you walk into your house and your family is dead, you scream immediately. This seemed staged. And worse, Hanu then came out of the house and hung around outside for another 15 minutes talking to someone that was in 911 until Crystal showed up. Most speculate he was on call with Deepa. The short Indian man was never found. Craig's testimony was never made part of the official records till date. Hanu, on the other hand, was let go from police custody the very next day, 24th March. And guess what he did? With the help of Deepa, she was there at that house. The next day, he moved out of his family home on the 24th, disposing everything in the house. Every single piece of evidence, bed sheets, kids' toys, all gone. Craig remembers seeing them pull all the household items out which had blood on them, items that might have helped the police find blood samples or fingerprints. But the police did not maintain the sanctity of the crime scene. They let Hanu return. That day, Hanu left Mapleshade, the Fox ghetto, forever. Many assumed Hanu fled back to India, his whereabouts unknown, as happens in these cases. But that's not the case, and that's where it's a little heartbreaking. In 2023, it was discovered that this techie from Andhra Pradesh now lives in a sprawling mansion in Colorado worth $500,000.
With his lover, I assume.
No. But this is a major upgrade from a 1 BHK shoddy apartment. His ex-lover, though, Deepa, now lives in an almost $1 million mansion in Westchester, Pennsylvania. She has a Lexus and a Tesla parked in the garage. How they afforded this? Who knows? From the latest developments in the civil suit around Sashi's estate, it looks like this year, Hanu will get 70% of it, while Sashi's family will get only 30%. While the former lovers live glorious lives hidden away from the reality of their actions, the mother and son rest in the home on Hamilton Road. I'm sure wherever 6-year-old Ashish is right now, he must be telling his mom, "Ma, love is all we have." Until next time, stay safe, stay crazy, and stay Desi.
If you like what we do here at Desi Studios and absolutely love what we're wearing today, this is merch you can go buy all for yourself.
You can buy this Desi Crime merch in our YouTube store on the link down below at Karak Merch. Keep the engines at Desi Studios rolling so we can pay our videographer right behind the camera to make these amazing episodes just for you.